Good afternoon. It's March the 3rd, 2021. This is episode 18 in our ongoing series entitled Getting Back to Conversation. I want to start today by quoting Aristotle, 4th century BC. Aristotle wrote, "Man is by nature a social animal." You and I might think that's a common sense observation. We long to be with others. For whatever reason, philosophers, theologians, historians, sociologists have all written about this. For whatever reason, we humans want to band together with other humans. Families, clans, neighborhoods, clubs, teams, organizations. By ourselves, we feel a sense of incompleteness. So we want to be in relationship with others. Now, how do we achieve that goal? I'm a communication scholar. What am I going to say? Communication, but I think I could argue this with anybody. Communication is how we achieve that goal. Common things, communion. We share a language, a symbol system, and that builds toward a common narrative, an intricate woven fabric of a story that we share together. What is the gold standard for communication? When does it work and work well? And I would like to say or assert that it works well when we are in conversation. Now, I'm using the term in the same sense that Sherry Turkle uses the word. You might have heard her name. She has written several books. One is Alone Together in 2011. The other is Reclaiming Conversation that was written in 2015. Conversation, what does that mean? Well, as a communication scholar, I would talk about full channel communication. We are in the same space at the same time. We are face to face. You can attend to my body language, my facial expressions. You can hear how loudly I am speaking, the tone of voice, and other kinds of paralinguistic cues. That is conversation. But we live in a day and age when so much communication does not match this definition. One person pulls out their phone and taps out a text, sometimes in a cryptic language that is hard to understand. That text is read 45 minutes later and responded to even later than that. The text is not accompanied by tone of voice or facial expressions. An emoji helps, but not much. A person posts something on Facebook or Instagram that someone else sees 12 hours later. But this is not new. Another ancient philosopher, Plato, commented on what is now a very old, antiquated technology, and that is writing. We may not even think of writing as a communication technology, but it was probably the first. In a dialogue entitled The Phaedrus, Plato shares his thoughts with one of his students about writing, and let's just say that the new technology does not get a 5-star review from the philosopher. The problem, and there are several according to Plato, but the one I want to focus on as most germane to our discussion today, is that something could be written. It could be a letter, it could be a poem, it could be a story, it could be a political treatise, you name it. That writing is like a painting. Now here's what Socrates, Plato, says in this dialogue to his student Phaedrus. You know, Phaedrus, that is the strange thing about writing, which makes it truly correspond to painting. The painter's products stand before us as though they were alive. But if you question them, they maintain a most majestic silence. It is the same with written words. They seem to talk to you as though they were intelligent, but if you ask them anything about what they say from a desire to be instructed, they go on telling just the same thing forever. In other words, I, the reader, cannot have a conversation with the words on the page. This could be something as mundane as instructions on how to put a table together, or the Constitution of the United States, a love poem. I may seek understanding or clarification, but there is no one there to answer or explain. I'm left to myself and the words on the page. So the problem we face with social media postings is not such a new problem. What we have in writing and Instagram posts is the potential for connection. This is a low bandwidth interaction, no facial expressions, no paralanguage, no body language, low bandwidth interaction, and it is an attempt at communication, but it is not conversation. And what we humans crave is conversation. What social media can provide us is not what we really want. So let me offer a couple of things for you to chew on as I conclude. First, life is a zero-sum game. For every minute I spend on social media, that is a minute I cannot spend in genuine conversation. A second idea tied to the first is that many times we are deceived into thinking that we are conversing when really all we are doing is exchanging bits and bytes. Sometimes we think that clicking a like button or offering a pithy comment or posting a GIF on somebody's Facebook page is the same as conversation. It is not. And unfortunately, we think that we are conversing with someone and we're substituting a faint substitute for the real thing. The third thing, and the most important thing, is conversation is the place where we find empathy. Now, this is a theme that I have gone over and touched on several times. Empathy. Let me quote for you what Sherry Turkle wrote about conversation. Face-to-face conversation is the most human and humanizing thing we do. Fully present to one another, we learn to listen. It's where we develop the capacity for empathy. It's where we experience the joy of being heard, of being understood. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter cannot provide empathy. Remember a couple weeks ago, I quoted Craig Rochelle, pastor from Oklahoma, who said that even in a staff meeting, his staff, which were all over the place geographically, that what he saw in their exchange was extremes without empathy. What we need today is empathy. We need to hear each other, we need to understand, and we need to be understood. Now, next week, I'm going to deal with a case study. I've been promising to do this for some time. I've been thinking about it. I'm finally going to get around to it next week. It's a case study from my home state. And I want to talk about social media and what it does and what it does not do, and particularly when it comes to empathy, which provides conversation, which is what you and I humans really want. I hope you found this helpful. If you have, please share it with others. I'd love to hear your comments. Let's at least in this social media space do the best we can to dialogue, if not converse. All right. Have a great day, and let's stay in conversation.